Oh, yes, sir. Oh, my Lord. Yes, sir. Oh, mommy. Yes, sir, man. Oh, yes, sir. Oh, I got, yes, sir. Oh.
So I'm hoping you guys are doing pretty good today. So welcome. Excuse me for taking a little longer than usual. I was on the move. I had to rush back. So that's another reason why I'm using a different laptop here. So I'm usually not at Chicago, but we'll make it work. We will make it work. So what we're gonna go over today, let me start by sharing my screen. We're just gonna pick up with where we left off. But before we pick up from where we left off, let's just engage in a little bit of semi-entertainment since everyone is talking about it. And I was watching some of the videos. Well, maybe before I show this video, I should show you this first. For those interested in seeing the whole Epstein file thing, there's a more effective way to look at it than actually downloading it. So let me just show that to you right now. And then we will transition to the rest of the stuff. There is a website. Let me know if you guys can see my screen so I'm not just talking without you seeing. Can you guys see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So there's a website called jmail.world. This jmail.world is an open source that some people created that allows you to basically see everything. So shortly after all these people started to talk about the files from the Department of Justice and all that stuff, there are those who've been compiling this information before then. And those who've been compiling it end up testing the same thing that I did and realized the same issue. So they created an open source website for people to access all these other information without their computers being screwed over and short. So if you want to see everything that the Department of Justice has unredacted and some more, there's a open source website that's meant to mimic what Gmail looks like. So it entails every information. Let me zoom this in here. About 7,545 different emails that might have like 20 different attachments or videos or email or whatever it is. So you can look at it and knock yourself out. You can see all the conversations that were compiled. So it's specifically formatted to look like Gmail. So it's easy for people to go over and familiarize themselves with. You can see the ones that he sent. You can see the ones that he received, going all the way back to 2005. Most of these, all that stuff you see in those Department of Justice website won't show it to you. And if they do, they're going to redact it, which kind of is pointless. So this is if you're interested in the whole gossip thing, for those who are. But another interesting thing that I would have you know is, despite all this existing, this entire thing relating to this sudden outburst of someone who's been doing something bad that the world is supposed to now know about, as though he's the only one, is something that's pre-planned. Because if you look at a website called Who Is Domain, it would list to you the list of information about a particular website, such as the day that it was created. So this website, jmail.com, where you can see all this, or jmail.world and its derivative, it lets you know that the website was first created in the year 1996. So, which begs the question, if this was created to be compiled as information of open source, why then is all this stuff about this guy just coming up? When someone else has been compiling information about his private correspondence and his life outside of whatever it is they're saying is an allegation. If they've been compiling since the year 1996 and the website is to expire about a month from now, something is a little bit off. How come people are only starting to hear about this guy? Yet information about him again has been compiled since 1996. Someone created this open source website around the same time the internet came out. Remember, the internet really got popular in the early 2000s. So about a generation ago. but someone created this website in 1996. So obviously you can see something fishy is going on here. This guy is in short just being set up by his fellow people. What's happening is all these people join organizations that have records to their detriment, so that in case one of them wants to rat out, they will put him in the forefront to kind of cloud their own liabilities. That's a simple portion of what's going on here. So I'm giving you this extra information to corroborate with this, but nonetheless, this is something you can look at to basically have more details in terms of his emails, videos, images. Knock yourself out. There's way more than you can ever get the time to view, listen to, whatever it is. This is a better alternative and open source to anything you might want to download to the Department of Justice. Of course, just like Gmail, you can view the video online instead of you having to download it if there happens to be any video attached to the record or whoever he's talking to. Again, as a summary, this is just an open source of compilation of all his information by one of his own people that wants to write him out, that other people eventually got and made it open source. It was never open source, but they made it open source so that everyone can access it. It says it's eventually going to expire next month. So I don't know, maybe they're going to renew it. Maybe they're not. Who knows? Moving on. So the next thing that I'm going to show here is something relating to this same guy, but the interrogatories that he went through. And believe it or not, this interrogatory is kind of old, or excuse me, deposition, not interrogatory. So a live question and answer that perfectly demonstrates, even though his situation is kind of screwed up, but just let's look beyond that and see how we can learn from what he's doing. What he's doing particularly that we can learn from is the perfect counter to depositions, which is to evoke certain rights over and over and over and over. Now, let me open up a file 1 second here real quick. So I'm currently creating an instruction to a video that I'm about to upload when it comes to deposition that explain all the reason behind this particular video. It's just a short clip that we're going to watch. So this is the video, this is the note right here. It's called About Discovery. So I'll be attaching this explanation along with the video. So it would give you more explanation as to the things you can use as a direct rebuttal to depositions. But let's watch what these wealthy people do when they really get into the eye of the storm. Really show you they know about the Constitution and they evoke the Constitution. Let me know if you can or cannot hear it right. I'm gonna have to put in a speaker for this.
Facts to what actually happened at your house. And generally, I think you would agree that devised a way for young females to come to your house and engage in various degrees of sexual activity. Some of the girls as young as 12, some of the older as 17 or so, most in between. But as of yet, you haven't provided an explanation. So,
can you guys to some extent hear that?
Yeah.
Barely a little bit. Okay. Let's see. The key is what he's going to respond, regardless of everything that the one opposing him is saying. He's going to be repeating something over and over that is very important that you also should know.
tell the jury at this time why you did it?
I'm going to object to confusing, compound, and irrelevant as wording.
You know, I'd like to answer that question, frankly. However, at this time, my attorneys have told me that I can, and I must invoke my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, or I risk losing their counsel. Accordingly, I therefore assert those rights. Sorry.
And in addition to that, I'm going to move to strike counsel's statement as narrative as well.
I understand. You have to provide him the opportunity if today was going to be the day.
Same thing, move to strike narrative.
Mr. Epstein, how long have you been sexually attracted to underage minor females?
Objection, harassing, argumentative.
Are you kidding?
No, I mean, I don't feel like I'm divulging any secrets here, right?
Move to strike.
That's the question.
I'd like to answer that question as well. I'll get all your other questions today. However, I have to follow my attorney's advice. They have told me that I must invoke my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment right to not answer those questions today or any questions relevant to this lawsuit. So accordingly, I'm going to assert those rights and under the Constitution is guaranteed by the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment.
Okay. Would you consider yourself addicted to sex with minor females?
Same objectives. You know, Mr. Edwards, I want to be very respectful. And as the current U.S. Attorney has described your law firm as a criminal enterprise.
Did you have a business relationship with Mr. West?
I intend to respond to all relevant questions. I'd like to answer most of your questions, Mr. Edwards, today. But however, especially since your firm has been described by the United States Attorney in South Florida as a criminal enterprise purported to have pulled off the largest fraud in Florida's history, I would like to answer that. However, my attorneys today counsel me that I must assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment right under the U.S. Constitution, and therefore I'm going to do that.
Are you saying that because Ross and Rosenthal was
Can't really hear him, Mo.
So, could you guys hear it all the second manner or the first manner was better?
The first manner.
Okay, all right.
you and Ghislaine Maxwell sexually assaulted at Leslie Wexner's house?
I intend to respond to all relevant questions regarding this lawsuit. However, at the present time, my attorneys have counseled me that I cannot provide answers to any questions relevant to this lawsuit and must accept this advice or risk losing my 6th Amendment right to effective representation. Accordingly, I assert my constitutional rights as guaranteed by the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution.
Oh, I understand that. But wait, under the United
Some people's names.
Wait a second. Under the United States Constitution, a lot of these questions here today that you're asking have already been ruled on by various courts that the Fifth Amendment protects any response they're taking. So I would like it. I'm giving you some leeway here with regards to these argumentative questions. We've already, and I'm not obviously testifying for the witness, but we've already handled a lot of these issues in court, and we've already adjourned one deposition for being argumentative, and I think you understand what the court said there. So, having said that, and I understand that you have a job to do, but having said that, I would like to caution you professionally that if you continue with the argumentative questions, I am going to have to terminate this deposition, and then we'll do what you must have probably got it completely understand. We're here today. Mr. Brunel is we're here with the courts and we're here today to allow you to ask your question. The harassment and other things, this is not in Tyler tomorrow. So it's just see this.
Yeah, it went low again, Mo.
So this was the
Okay. I'm not sure if that audio was any good, but I hope you guys kind of heard what was somewhat going on. But more so what he was saying. In short, every question that he was asked by the one who was opposing him, he responded by saying, I must assert my fourth, fifth, sixth constitutionally secured right over and over and over and over. In short, the best way to respond to any type of deposition so you don't trap yourself is evoke the fifth, sixth amendment at all times and nothing more. That's it. They can't hold you against that. The whole purpose of why those exist is so that you have the right to speech as secured in court cases. Because right to speech in the First Amendment is under any circumstance. But when you take the fifth and sixth and 14th, for some people 14th, if you don't want to use 14th, don't. But when you take other amendments and match it with the first, then it can be applied in cases and matters like this. For them to now assume that, well, are you saying you're guilty? Is that the reason why you don't want to answer? Defeats the purpose of why those amendments exist and your ability to either respond or not. So that's just something that I want to start with. And by the way, no, the dude is not dead. He's chilling somewhere. He's too wealthy for that. So are there any questions before we begin? And we'll just go through where we left off, just the dual control, and we'll go through a few other things. And we'll go into the question and answer. So any basic questions before we begin?
I got a question.
That's good.
Just, okay, Russell, just raise your hands and then I'll go in that order. Okay, hey Russell, what's going on?
So, if he's like super wealthy and operating at these high levels, why is he invoking the 14th Amendment?
Because he has a lawyer. And the only way that lawyer can be able to do anything is through the 14th Amendment personhood. So he has to use that to bring the lawyer to the equation.
Okay.
Let's see. The next hand that I saw is JC. Hey, JC.
What's up, brother? How do you go about like verifying or validating that he's still alive, right? I'm not saying that he's not, or I'm not saying he is, but like, how do you go about like doing that research and stuff?
There are images of him chilling out with people.
I seen that too. I just didn't know. Okay, go ahead.
Not just one, but many other images. And I don't want to promote any website here, but there are websites that keep track of stuff like that. And they show you the geolocation of where it was and all. He's in Milan right now. So, chilling. Unbothered. So, him, his brother, and all those people, you know, all this is just a ruse for something else. It's just a cloud.
Which is kind of what I was about to go into. Like, obviously, they're kind of doing the bait and switch. Like, if they're showing us this stuff, putting it through our feeds and stuff, like, in your opinion, what's the real narrative behind that?
The real narrative, if I'm to put it in short, is that the so-called system is resetting. And the quickest way to basically stop people from realizing that despite the obvious is to show something that's close to people's heart, which is we got to protect the children, which is valid. But how come you waited all this time to start that wave? So you only determine children are worth being protected after 2020? Come on now, that's unreasonable. It makes no damn sense. And if you pay attention, the whole pedophile stuff is a very real thing. Those people exist. They really exist. But all these people are always popular people for some reason. All these other people, when you look into their track records of the other court cases they've ever had, you start realizing most of those were thrown out and dismissed. And then the recent ones that they show you, for instance, this Epstein guy, most of those records are from prior dismissed cases. Even that deposition we just watched is not even the recent case. The deposition from all his recent cases, all those, you can't find it. It just jumps from, he had this prior cases, prior depositions, and then suddenly they put him in jail, and then they said he killed himself in jail. No autopsy, no investigation, nothing, despite them being all that wealthy and having all that resource. So what they're really trying to block people from knowing is most of the contracts that all those big bad supervillains like China, Russia has with the US are maturing. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but polities or countries or nation states in commerce can own land in other places that are not their so-called country. But they do it through contracts, temporary contracts that would mature. 2026 is where those contracts mature. What they're going to do is whenever a contract matures, you either tell someone, okay, renew it. No different than landlord-tenant situation. And if you want to renew it, we're going to increase the premium or give this back. But the problem is giving it back is hard because all those lands that these polities have at North America, they build infrastructures and cash flow business in it. So it makes it a little bit hard. So they put those contracts into futures. They make it a future contract. 2026 June. Instead of it doing so, we will sell other people the ability to buy this contract from you, the one who is our alleged creditor, so long as you allow us to remain in a longer than that term. What that does is it basically kills the monetary system and the value of money people in that country are using. So the power of US dollar is really about to go to shits. That's why if you've been keeping track of the cost of silver, it went from like 35, 45 bucks all the way to like 100 bucks all of a sudden. And it's because it's not that the worth, as always, it's not the worth of the coins that's going down. It's the value of what you're purchasing it with. That's dying. Therefore, you have to spend more of that to get whatever the natural resources. The same thing is happening with those lands they're leasing. But instead of them paying, they're using the currency itself as a ledger, so to say, or as a leverage to hedge their own ledger. And who pays for it is the average people. If people realize that the whole thing when they say, oh, the market is about to crash, house is about to be cheaper, that's not going to happen until a long time from now. In other words, 2-bedroom apartments, 2 baths that are worth about $300K in some states would go to $500,000 by the end of 2020. And that directly reflects a landlord who invest in properties. That's if they're not doing duplex or multi-families. So, or condos. So condos will be kind of sort of okay, but those who do like residential landlord stuff, not even Airbnb, just regular stuff, they would have to pay for that. And then at the end of the day, they will throw that on the renters at some point. So those who rent a certain ways still are going to be screwed in some ways. And all that would affect the price of everything else. So the way of life for people is not going to be all that easy, short. So as they transition to that, they have to put some shock element in the public, create a victim, go into the part that affects many people's heart while they're just doing that in the background. That's the short end of it that I think I can say that's not too depressing. Now, AI plays a role in all this also, because what they're doing with artificial intelligence now is they are trying to normalize the fact that the privacy aspect of the Constitution and any other state legislature when it comes to biometrics would really not matter anymore based on how they're creating the AI, because they're making the assumption now that the AI can create itself and program itself without human provocation through a corporation. Therefore, no one can be held liable. That's really the end goal of it. And their legislatures proposing this on the federal and state level. And their contracts rated this also. The test run that they use with this is, remember, AI requires gathering of information to put into a database for it to function. That's the main core of how it works. Even the large language models like ChatGPT, it requires some compilation of information on the internet to scrape and then give it to you in conversation format. Well, they're using AI in a different way whereby people's face, voice, lifestyle, and basically personalities can be engineered through things like fog cameras and stuff like that. To know where to go, when to go, what type of vehicle, how they drive, all that. Create that into personalities of each quote-unquote citizens and create a virtual real estate and create a carbon copy of each so-called citizens using certain things in a certain way in that realm for predictive policing, which is the ultimate goal, further control. It's the reason why I've been pushing initially before this point that just start with the basics, do your trust, put your vehicle and your house in your trust, because that's the first line. When all these license plate readers embedded into fog cameras and stuff, when they start reading all the stuff, if they can attach it to someone physical, then you've automatically barred it there. The next question is the facial recognition in your vehicle. There's something called, I forgot what it's called, but there are certain types of materials you can purchase that kind of distorts the way it reads it, like scarves and stuff like that. It puts faces and I made a video on that. I forgot what it's called, but you can use that. Another thing you can do also is even if you tint your vehicle, it wouldn't matter. They have AIs that can see through all that. So what I do now is in the back of the vehicle, like towards the passenger in the back, I put a sticker of these things there and it distorts the facial recognition of that. So anyway, all this is just, it's a new world is really truly being created. So in the midst of all that, people must be distracted in short, and they will continue to do it. If you pay attention to the whole Cosby stuff and him, none of these people, I have no remorse for any of these people because I have no doubt that they're actually doing all these people. Fuck them. They can die at any point for like here. But the thing is, why now? You know, why now? Why all this work is, if you look at all these people that say they have allegations, they are grown women now. How come didn't you have a parent? How come you waited all this time to now publicize it? And if you look at the attorneys that they retain, the one making the accusations, the one paying the attorney that's making the accusation is also the one paying the attorney for these people that are supposed to be the bad guys. So something doesn't add up. All these are being perfectly placed in time to just distract people because people love gossip. And gossip will cause you to go to Popeyes looking to get a #1 meal, and while someone is fighting with their breast halfway hanging out and there's some dude yelling, "Mama, stop, mama!" You know, people would look away from the food and go, "Oh shit, something is happening." That's basically what's going on here, but on a national level, and it works. You know, it works. Anyway, that's really what's going on. That's why I always start by telling people, just get your trust stuff together first and take it from there. Another thing that's going to change pretty soon, probably starting 2028, late 2027, is the use of gold and silver as a legal tender itself. Not just in some states, but, you know, at large. It is still in joint resolution stage right now. That was, I think, last year, December, then they started it. But it's still being considered whether they should publicize it and see the people's participation in it. So it all depends. It's all about money in short. And the one who gets screwed over is the typical people. So let me see if I can go back to Russell. Hey, so what's going on? Do you have any other question?
Yeah, you said you have a sticker that you put in the rear view mirror on the passenger side to distort the facial recognition camera?
Give me a second. Let me look at what it's called. One second.
Okay.
I just don't want to sign that. Look it up.
Russ, don't you got the shirt?
Oh, yeah, I got the shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. We just find the stickers.
Oh, adversarial stickers. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, adversarial patterns. Yes, it's called adversarial patterns. Yes.
Okay.
And even if for instance, if you're the type that still haven't put the vehicle in the name of the trust, So if you get to put your vehicle in a truck, or it's the thing that you're still in the process of doing, or time just doesn't permit, you can basically take that same sticker because the boxes that these AIs uses. One second. Because the boxes that these AI uses to recognize certain things, sometimes it skips in as large enough. If there's any adversarial pattern close to the license plate, now there are legislatures that never existed that's coming up now to say if you deface these license plates, you get fined and stuff like that. So don't put those patterns on its face. Just put it on top of it or next to it. It still discloses the ability to read the license plate. So up to you. But if you already have it in a trust, it doesn't ever matter. Because the thing is, if you have it outside of the vehicle, it kind of calls upon the fact that, okay, so I'm going to put an adversarial pattern here. Maybe we should look a bit further. So I just put it on the inside. It's none of your business anyway. So there's something called a plain view doctrine, where anything that's within the plain view on the public is accessible nonetheless and does not violate the Constitution. So if you tint your windows and then put those adversarial patterns inside where your face might be in juxtaposition to any other box, or where the box would recognize any face, then you're creating something called reasonable expectation of privacy. So it makes sense that way, rather than putting it on the face of the license plate itself, where they're not all states have this, but they're going to start doing so. The more people catch up to this for cameras. Not many people have, but eventually they will. And as a response, people will try to basically modify it so that flock cameras don't read it, because there are certain adversarial patterns you can etch into it directly. For instance, I'm not giving you any ideas here. I'm not saying do it, but once you get the actual license plate from the DMV or Secretary of State, the exact number, you can find, in place of people doing UCC, non-commercial, all that stuff, modified stuff, you can actually find a license plate that has a background of adversarial pattern the physical eye cannot see, but AIs can read. And then get the exact license plate numbers that already is on the record and impose it on that. But the thing is, no naked eyes can discern that, but the AI, it just confuses it. It just shows